Hello, today I want to recount the Egyptian mummification process according to the Smithsonian Museum. So I don't think we can get any much more precise uh, source, right? The mummification process took 70 days. Special priests worked as embalmers, treating and wrapping the bodies. Beyond knowing the correct rituals and prayers to be performed at various stages, the priests also needed a detailed knowledge of human anatomy. And the first step in the process was the removal of all internal parts that might decay rapidly. The brain was removed by carefully inserting special hooked instruments up through nostrils in order to pull out bits of brain tissue. It was a delicate operation, one which could easily disfigure the face. The embalmers then removed the organs of the abdomen and chest through a cut, usually made on the left side of the abdomen, and they left only the heart in place, believing it to be the center of a person's being and intelligence. The other organs were preserved separately, with the stomach, liver, lungs, and intestines placed in special boxes or jars today called canoptic jars, and these were buried with the mummy. And in later mummies, the organs were treated, wrapped, and replaced within the body. Even so, unused canoptic jars continued to be part of the burial ritual. The embalmers next removed all moisture from the body, and they did this by covering the body with natron and by placing additional natron packets inside the body, which is a type of salt. When the body had dried out completely, embalmers removed the internal packets and lightly washed the natron off the body, and the result was a very dried out but recognizable human form. And to make the mummy seem even more lifelike, sunken areas of the body were filled out with linen and other materials, and false eyes were added. Next, the wrapping began. Each mummy needed hundreds of yards of linen, and the priest carefully wound the long strips of linen around the body, sometimes even wrapping each finger and toe separately before wrapping the entire hand. And in order to protect the dead from mishap, amulets were placed amongst the wrappings, and prayers and magical words were even written on some of the linen. Often the priest placed a mask of the person's face between the layers of head bandages, and at several stages the form was coated with warm resin, and the wrapping resumed once again. At last the priest wrapped the final cloth or shroud in place and secured it with linen strips, and the mummy was then complete. The priests preparing the mummy were not the only ones busy during this time. Although the tomb preparation usually had begun long before the person's actual death, now there was a deadline, and craftsmen, workers, and artists worked quickly, and there was much more to be placed in the tomb that a person would need in the afterlife. Furniture and statuettes were readied. Wall paintings of religious or daily scenes were prepared, and lists of food or prayers were finished. And through a magical process, these models and pictures and lists would become the real thing when needed in the afterlife, and everything was then ready for the funeral. As part of the funeral, priests performed special religious rites at the tomb's entrance. The most important of the ceremony was called the opening of the mouth. A priest touched various parts of the mummy with a special instrument to open those parts of the bodies to the senses enjoyed in life and needed in the afterlife. By touching the instrument to the mouth, the dead person could now speak and eat, and he was now ready for his journey to the afterlife. And the mummy was placed in his coffin or coffins in the burial chamber, and the entrance was then sealed up. Such elaborate burial practices might suggest that the Egyptians were preoccupied with thoughts of death. On the contrary, they began early to make plans for their death because of their great love of life. They could think of no life better than the presence and they wanted to be sure it would continue after death. But why would they go to such lengths to preserve the body? The Egyptians believed that the mummified body was a home for the soul or spirit, and if the body was destroyed, the spirit might be lost. The idea of spirit was complex, involving really three spirits of the body: the Ka, the Ba, and the Ak. The Ka was a double of the person that would remain in the tomb and needed the offerings and objects there. The Ba, or soul, was free to fly out of the tomb and return to it, and was the Ak, translated as spirit, which had to travel through the underworld and await final judgment and entrance to the afterlife. And to the Egyptians, all three were essential. This has been your host, Luke. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe for more, and I hope you have a great day.